I just recently binged this book, Dot Monsters Revolution, and I wanted to make a review on it because there's not a whole lot of reviews out there, and I wanted to add my 2 cents. So, why am I, as a fitness coach, making a book review when I have never done that before? Because I am a big fan of Pokemon, as you can see. Pokemon's one of my favorite IPs. I have been diving down a real deep monster taming rabbit hole where I'm exploring other non-Pokemon monster taming games, and you can see my phone case here has a little bit of everything on it, and I think there's about 13 games on there, all of which are different games that I have played. And I have also rekindled my love for Digimon, where I feel like I'm making up for lost time by playing Time Stranger, of course, and watching the old animes, catching up. I'm currently watching Adventure 02 right now, and also, I am currently writing my own middle grade monster taming book, and I've kind of hit a bit of a stumbling roadblock as far as like writer's block and just lack of motivation to write. And so, seeing this book come out by an independent author, independent published, was very inspiring. And then it also came to me like the perfect time to where I binged it in like a weekend. And so, I wanted to make a quick review. I'll do spoiler free now, and then I'll do spoilers at the end. But long story short, this is a really fun read for somebody who wants another Digimon style story that's obviously white labeled and looking to just have a fun time reading. Don't think too much about the world or what's going on in the world. Don't be asking too many questions on how the internet works or the government works or how everything of yours is connected to a singular account. Because once you start asking yourself those types of big world building questions, you'll probably find yourself breaking the immersion a little bit. And so just read it for what it is. It's a fun story that could very much fit somewhere in the Digimon lore and is an overall good time. One thing that I did do, and I think it was to my detriment on the enjoyment of the story, is I kept comparing it to Ready Player One, which is probably one of my favorite standalone books. Ready Player One, obviously lit RPG. This is like very akin to a lit RPG without fully diving into it. It's got like 1 foot in, 1 foot out when it comes to that. And I think that was a detriment to it. I'll kind of talk about that in the spoiler section. So if you're just looking for a recommendation, should I read this? Should I not? I will say absolutely read this. Fun read. My overall rating is a 4 to 4.5 out of 5. And I will now move on to the spoiler section. So, spoilers. This is your official spoiler warning. Very early on in the book, we find out that they don't, jack into cyberspace or anything like you would expect in like a lit RPG or like Ready Player One. In fact, they just log in to the second internet, I2, like we do here. And I felt like that was a little bit of immersion breaking because it severely lowers the stakes for me to when things go wrong, you can just log out. And the stakes were increased by having everything attached to a singular account to where essentially like your internet account is everything. Your phone plan, your streaming plan, all storage, like cloud storage and everything like that. Everything that you do online is all connected to a singular account. And if your avatar dies, you lose all of that. Or if you lose access to that, you lose all of that. Again, don't really ask yourself why. Just go along with the ride and you'll enjoy it. But I felt like since you're not actually jumping into cyberspace in some way, shape, or form, again, removes the stakes a little bit. They increase the stakes as the story goes, but early on, you're like, why are we really worried about it when you're just sitting at your computer? So to add more context on I'll read the second paragraph on this. On the second internet, known as the I2, 98% of users are accompanied by sophisticated partner programs called dot monsters. So 98% of internet users have these Digimon. Our main character, Aki, is part of the 2%. She doesn't have one. She thinks that they are a nuisance and they're unnecessary, and she can navigate the internet or the I2 without it. We found out very early on during the catalyst that her mom actually installed a partner program a long time ago, and this partner program shows up when Aki is in trouble and saves the day. So that is our catalyst, and then that's how Aki gets her partner program. And then like the events of the story happen like pretty quickly, and halfway through the story, Aki, again, spoilers, Aki loses her partner program, and we're supposed to have this kind of a big emotional weight to it when she's only known the partner program for like 2 weeks. And so I felt like there was an emotional disconnect there to where, again, I'm not going to say I can make the story better. And I think CJ Van did a really good job with the story and he wrote the story that he wanted to tell. But I think if we wanted a little bit more of an emotional impact on the connection between Aki and her partner program, the partner program, when it was installed by her mom early on, should have been present the entire time to where Aki finds him more as a nuisance, but always there and tagging along and feeling like that annoying little brother type of trope. And then when he steps up and saves the day, they have all of that emotional weight from her always looking down on him and being like, wow, this partner program's kind of annoying. I don't need him. I don't want him to be here. And then when he actually steps up and saves the day, she's like, oh shit, maybe I was wrong about you this whole time. And then when we lose him during the midpoint, then there's that emotional weight there. And I felt like that could have been increased a little bit more. Again, that's just my 2 cents. The book is literally broken down into 3 parts. Can you see this? Can you see? 3 parts, part 1, 2, and 3. And I feel like part 2 is fairly weak and lackluster. There's a Tower of Babel scene where they are able to help translations, and so everybody can understand everybody again. I felt like that was kind of random and shoehorned in. And then they do a battle royal. And again, like I said, your character avatar, when it dies, you lose everything. Your entire internet life is wiped. And then they have a battle royal. They call it a royal battle in here. They do a battle royale to where it's PvP. And I'm not sure if when your character avatar dies in a battle royal, that your character's safe or what. But I may have missed that part, but it just seemed like there was a weird disconnect. Why would these people fight to the death over this for a game? And this is where Aki does something horribly stupid, which is something everybody knows not to do, and that's give your login information to a complete stranger. And she gets logged out of her account, she loses everything, she loses her partner program, and we have this big emotional failure because Aki does something against her best judgment, everyone's best judgment. Everyone told her no, but she was clouded by the potential of gaining more and more knowledge of what is going on with these dot monsters. And she goes against all that and gives up her login information, which again, I felt like was a little shoehorned because we wanted a key to have some kind of downfall, but her doing something that was just so overly obvious not to do, I felt like causes a bit of a disconnect. And then when you have your entire life connected to a singular account, there's no two-factor authentication or other ways to recover your account from hackers like that. My Discord has two-factor authentication. When I log in, I have to scan my face. And an account that's attached to your entire life doesn't. Again, slight disconnect there. So then we have the essentially the digital world where it's always been there. The dot monsters originated there, and that the internet is actually a bridge for us to communicate with them. And then we find out that there's an actual connection between the digital world and the real life world. And then that really increases the stakes. Obviously, there's a physical danger with the big bad coming into the physical world. And I really like that. I would have liked to have seen that earlier, like that could have been a midpoint, and then they could have stretched out the third part of the book and turned it into the second half of the book. I know there's a sequel coming out based on the last page that he's working on a sequel. I hope that they lean more into the digital world and their connection to the physical world, and less so in the internet and I2, because I feel like that's like this weird limbo where the stakes are okay, but they're not super high. And then now we have this digital world and like the real world that can really cause real world stakes. And so I really hope that they lean into that connection more, and then they use this book as more of like an intro to that world and that connection. Our main character gets goggles, kind of shoehorned in a little bit, but we get it. The device or the digivice is, I feel like a Deus Ex Machina type of thing, to where they get it when their partner programs kind of evolve the first time, they become reawakened, and it just allows you to circumvent like literally all of the restrictions on the internet. You can communicate with other people who have the device, which is cool and it's fine. But then when they lose a partner program and lose their entire account, she loses everything. She still has the device, and I felt like, again, that was a little bit more of a Deus Ex Machina, to where we need to have it so she can communicate with the other characters, the dot savers, and there's no real explanation as to why. They kind of explain it towards the second or the third part of the book, but I felt like the explanation was kind of lackluster. It was just the dot monsters installed it. Okay. So yeah, overall, I felt like out of all the things in this book, I felt like the device was the most forced, it felt like. And then lastly, there's a twist at the end where the main group, the dot savers, their biggest fan was actually the son of the big bad CEO, who's actually not the big bad. So there's like a twist upon a twist upon a twist, which all of that I felt like was fine. So at the midpoint, Aki puts her trust into somebody and gets burned. And then they put their trust into this Jacob again and they get burned. But the twist is they knew they were getting burned. And so this was all just kind of a double setup. And we had very, very small breadcrumbs throughout the book to imply that this Jacob knew more than what he was letting on, and they were able to put all the pieces together kind of off screen, so to speak, off page, and we weren't privy of that until the betrayal already happens. And then they're like, haha, we already knew. You can't fool us because we fooled you. And I felt like that kind of missed the mark a little bit too. I really liked the artwork. I would have liked to have seen more. Not that that's a knock on the book, because hey, we got artwork and I don't want to turn this into like a picture book, but I felt like the artwork was really cool and original. The designs are really cool. I really enjoyed those. I really enjoyed reading how they essentially digivolved and all of that. And I felt like that was really cool and unique. and fun. Like I said, this whole book was fun. I know I kind of gave some a little bit of harsher criticisms, but I felt like those were just some more surface level immersion breaking critiques. Overall, really good book. Recommend giving it a read if you're a Digimon fan. And I am really looking forward to the second one whenever it comes out. I think this just came out last year. And I'm very interested to see how this story progresses and how CJ Van progresses as an author. It's very inspiring to me to pick up writing again, and I hope that maybe at some point I can have a book that I have published and have some no-name guy on the internet make a review on it that inspires them to write. Then we'll have a pay it forward type of movement to where one Monster Tamer author inspires another, who inspires another, who inspires another. So check this book out. It's great. I'll leave a link in the description for this book. That's all I got. Peace out.